And welcome back. Hope you guys had a Merry Christmas. And of course, for my Jewish followers, Happy Hanukkah to you guys as well. I want to go over Zillow's latest housing market forecast. It's been about a week since I posted a video, but I want to provide their forecast over the next 12 months and also through the end of 2025. I'll compare that to my forecast as well as Fannie Mae's as well. So let's begin. It says Zillow's latest forecast predicts a slight increase in home values, not the median sold price. We're talking about home values based on Zillow's index for that. So a slight increase in home values and a small rise of existing home sales for 2025. Existing home sales excludes brand new home construction. In other words, someone bought a house and they're reselling it. That's why they call it the resale market. So home values increasing a little bit and also a rise in sales as well. Recent signs pointing to mortgage rates not falling as much as had previously expected have boosted Zillow's forecast for rent prices. So now they're predicting that because mortgage rates are not going to decrease as much as basically everyone was predicting next year, they're calling for rent prices to increase more than their previous forecast posted 1 month ago. Let's read on. It says home values are expected to grow by 2.4% over the next 12 months, and for the year as a whole, next year, to increase by 2.2% compared to 2024. This is actually a slight decrease compared to Fannie Mae's prediction. So for example, for comparison's sake, Fannie Mae's prediction is an increase of prices based on their HPI, a gain of 3.6% in 2025 compared to this year. Whereas Zillow is only predicting a rise of up by 2.2%, quite a bit lower than the historical average. Home prices tend to increase in the range of 3 to 5% and not 2.2%. This is basically in line with inflation, actually a little bit lower than inflation right now. Zillow goes on to say here that although inventory will still be low compared to historical levels, it is expected to improve next year. Mortgage rates are forecasted to fall next year, but only moderately, leading to a small affordability improvement. So prices rising, but rates going down just a little bit, which is causing housing affordability to improve just a little bit. Now, speaking of inventory levels, let's talk about that. Here's altosresearch.com. The most recent trends we have from them is the week ended December 20th. According to them, there is approximately 667,000 existing houses for sale nationwide. Obviously, higher than the 528,000 1 year ago, 2 years ago at 509,000, and of course, higher than 2021 and 2020. However, at just under 670,000, this is still quite a bit less than about 5 years ago at 759,000. Another way to look at that is this right here, looking at Realtor.com. This is on our good Uncle Fred's website. So according to them, for the month of November, I'll have December's numbers in probably next week. According to Realtor.com, there was approximately 953,000 houses for sale. This is relatively high levels compared to the past several years, of course. So for example, 2 years ago, back in November 2022, there was approximately 750,000. Now there's about 200,000 more than that right now. But looking at, this is July 2016 through the end of 2019, on average, there was around 1.2 million houses for sale. So let's look at November of 2019, 1.1 million. Now again, right now, 953,000. In November 2018, just under 1.3 million. 2017, just over 1.2 million. In 2016, just over 1.3 million. So historically speaking, looking at pre-COVID levels, we still have low inventory levels, but still high compared to the past 5 years though. Let's also discuss home sales as well, because Zillow is now forecasting that it's going to increase by 2.5% next year to 4.16 million. This is a downward revision from the previous forecast posted 1 month ago. 1 month ago, they were calling for 4.3 million sales. Now it's only at 4.16 million. Again, due to the fact that we're not going to see mortgage rates decrease as much as previously expected. That's because the Fed announced, about a couple weeks ago, that they're now expecting or predicting for only 2 rate cuts next year and 2 rate cuts in 2026. Before that, back in September, they were calling for about 4 rate cuts next year and an additional 4 rate cuts in 2026. And that caused mortgage rates to increase once the Fed decreased rates by 25 basis points about a week ago. So in any case, that's why Zillow went down from 4.3 million sales down to just under 4.2 million sales for the forecast of 2024. Speaking of that, let's have a look at Fannie Mae's predictions for rates over the next several years, or actually through 2026. So for example, this is kind of what caught my attention, is that last year, 2023, the average 30-year fixed rate, according to Fannie Mae, was at 6.8%. This year, they're calling for the average to be at 6.7%, so virtually unchanged compared to last year. Then fast forward to next year, the average, according to them, will be 6.4%, then 6.1% by the time we hit 2026. So the average that year, 6.1%. Now here's what really caught my attention is that starting in Q4 of 2025 through the end of 2026, they're basically calling for rates to be flat at around 6 to 6.1%. This obviously is an improvement from the 6.6% rate they're forecasting for Q4 this year, but not as big of an improvement as previously expected due to inflation not decreasing as much as was forecasted. So in other words, the Fed's not going to decrease the federal funds rate greatly if they're seeing that inflation is not winding down to their target range. The last thing they want to do is to decrease the federal funds rate and then cause for inflation to rise further as people spend more money because money is cheaper to lend or borrow. So for example, if rates decrease to 5%, of course, that would increase home sales because a lot of people want to buy houses due to rates going down, right? So they don't want to see inflation winding up, and that's why they're forecasting for rates to decrease at a slower pace next year, or for rate cuts to decrease at a slower pace next year and 2026. All right, let's have a look at their forecast for home sales. So again, this year, and this by the way is a data poll I pulled from the National Association of Realtors from 2023 going back to 1989. So 2023, we had just under 4.1 million sales. Zillow's forecast this year is 4.06 million. That'd be a decrease of 0.7% compared to 2023. And the significance regarding that is that back in 2023, we had the lowest level home sales of existing houses since 1995, or a 28-year low. This year, and this is also something I also agree as well, we're going to have fewer home sales this year compared to last year. So Zillow's forecast is around 4.06 million, a decrease of 0.7%. Therefore, this year would basically be a 29-year low in home sales, the lowest level since 1995. Back then, we had just over 3.8 million home sales. Now, fast forward through next year, they're forecasting for 4.16 million. That'd be an increase of 2.5% from 2024, which technically would be a 3-year high, but this is approximately 900,000 fewer than the long-run average, of 5.03 million. This is based on my nerdy formula here. The median number from 1989 through 2023 is just over 5 million sales. So even though they're forecasting for to be 4.16 million, this is still approximately 900,000 fewer than long-run average. On top of that, this is kind of mind-blowing as well. When you look at the decrease in home sales over the past 3 years, 2023 potentially through 2025, we'd be missing approximately 2.8 million home sales compared to the long-run average of 5.03 million. Of course, this is really due to the fact that there's this housing affordability issue still across the United States due to elevated rates and of course due to elevated home prices as well. And because of this, they're predicting, which I also agree with as well, we're going to see a lack of home sales next year as well. But also, I do also agree with them that we probably have an increase compared to 2024. as people have more options to choose from as inventory grows further, and that could likely increase home sales next year. Additionally, just for comparison's sake, looking at Fannie Mae's predictions for this year, they're calling for just over 4 million sales next year to increase to 4.25 million. So this year is right in line with Zillow, but next year they're actually a little bit more bullish than Zillow at 4.25 million compared to 4.16 million according to Zillow. Let's have a look at my housing market forecast for home sales over the next couple of years as well. So here's how I came up with these numbers. So look at home sales according to the National Association of Realtors, looking at the amount of houses for, or not amount of houses for sale, the amount of houses that actually sold, not seasonally adjusted. This is the actual number of home sales each and every month from January through November last year was 3.79 million. That's according to the National Association of Realtors. Now look at that same time frame, January through November this year, it's at 3.733 million sales compared to 3.79 million sales last year. That's a decrease of 57,000 from 1 year ago, or a decrease of 2%. Therefore, looking at home sales last year at 4,090,000, if we were to decrease that by 2%, what we're seeing so far this year, we'd get at just over 4 million sales this year. So that'd be a decrease of 2%, right in line with what we're seeing so far this year. So also my forecast in 2025 is just over 4.1 million sales. I do expect to see a low level of sales, but to increase next year due to more options of home buyers to choose from, because we're seeing inventory piling up in some areas, not all areas, but I'm guessing that because there's more inventory, that's going to increase sales, and couple that with a small decrease in mortgage rates, that could likely increase sales just by a little bit. Something else you should mention as well is that it's not hard to have an increase in sales when we're at a 29-year low as well. Just want to throw that out as well. Let's get back to Zillow's real estate market predictions. It says higher than expected rates are likely to reduce demand for home purchases, shifting it towards rentals. Zillow's forecast for single-family rents will increase by 4.1% in 2025, with multifamily rents, these are apartments for example, increasing by 2.8%. Both forecasts have been revised upward from the previous month, again due to a lack of housing affordability as people decide to rent further and not buy houses next year. So please leave me a comment below what are your thoughts about the housing market forecast for home values and home sales to increase through 2025. Please leave me a comment below. Also, if you guys want a real estate agent referral, then please check out my website, which is realestateteamfinder.com. I'm also a licensed loan officer here in California, and my team and I would love to help you buy a house or refinance as well. So please reach out regarding that as well. You also can find some information about that on my website as well. Again, that's realestateteamfinder.com. With that said, I appreciate you guys so much. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, of course, Happy Hanukkah. Have an amazing day, and we'll see you in the next video.